This video is a film study look at the impact that Zay Flowers was able to have, really scorching the Bills' man coverages when they chose to deploy them. Collinsworth talked about it a lot, and certainly they did play man, but it was shown, it was displayed. You knew it was coming pre-snap by their alignment. If not a man team, and they really had trouble matching up with Flowers and Hopkins and others when we decided to throw the football down the field against them. I'm going to show, I think, 6 of his targets, maybe 5 of them. He finished 7 of 9 catches to targets. One of them is really just a throwaway by Lamar when there's insane amount of pressure quickly allowed by Rosengarten and Falele, that combo. I'm not sure which one is at fault, probably both. I just don't think that duo is serving us well at all off on the right side. Going to focus on Flowers and what he's able to do, his speed and burst, acceleration, getting from, he might even skip first gear. You know, in a manual shift, stick shift car in the old days, that's how old I am, trying to skip from first to third gear, depending on what type of vehicle you have. It almost seems like Flowers can skip first. He starts in second gear or maybe even in third, and that really was a huge benefit going against the corners for the Bills. Physical, strong, tough guys, but not guys who can keep up with him from an agility and an acceleration standpoint. Kind of got my plays a little bit out of order, to be honest with you, to begin this one, so I'll have to reshuffle a little bit as we get started. This is first possession. I'll generally have Flowers spot shadowed in yellow. This is just a basic D-tackle free rush. You didn't come here to sign up for negativity about the offensive line, but I don't see how you can talk about this play without talking about what occurs here with a free rusher, basically, for a defensive tackle. It goes down as a target for Flowers, to be honest with you. I mean, look at what Lamar is dealing with back here. Immediate pressure coming from a 3-technique D-tackle. Unbelievably bad. This is high school-esque mix-up by our guys off the right side. From Flowers' perspective, he's up at the top trying to run away from a corner. We got double in cuts with him and Hopkins. I would have liked to have seen Hopkins and Bateman get some more targets, to be honest with you. The Bills are definitely playing man here, don't get me wrong. There's an add-on blitz nature to this that I'll kind of explain. I think it's borderline dereliction of duty for what we're allowing to occur at the offensive line position. It's not consistently, right? We rolled up offense against this team, but what I mean is 5, 6, 7 times a game, or at least last night, the offensive line has a huge mix-up. Flowers was 7 of 9 targets officially. You know, this one counts. Is Lamar really trying to get him the ball? I guess yes. There's really no chance for it. So I would say that Flowers was really 7 of 8. High efficiency, man, in terms of opportunities and catches, and then yards per catch. There's a trigger warning here, I'll be honest with you. And it's this right here. The Bills it's a readout blitz. So 8 is man on the tight end, and one or both of these guys is reading Justice Hill and then responding to him. The comparison or analogy I made here in terms of Lamar having to deal with the shit that he's dealing with, immediate pressure, oftentimes coming from the right side for the last 2 years. I'm old, so I can make this comparison. It reminds me of George Mirasan for the Washington Bullets before they changed their name. And he turned out having a good career for a guy who was 7'6" and completely immobile. This pairing of these two guys, hamstringing Lamar in this offense, if you ask me, is like the Bulls trading for George Mirasan in the 90s and forcing Jordan to run a pick and roll with Mirasan repeatedly. This totally destroys the flow of the play, in my opinion, and means that Lamar is often running, pressured by a defensive tackle. It's unconscionable, if you ask me. Warhop, Harbaugh, Munkin, whoever you want to talk about, all of the above, I'm comfortable with. Those guys are not doing a good enough job with the talent that we have, in my opinion. That was the first and 10, excuse me. I have to rewind here to go back to the next play. In effect, the very next play, it's a 2nd and 10. The Bills still lead 7-0. Ball's on the left hash. So we're going to get motion crossed by Zay. This is, of course, QB power read. This is the read man here, the defensive end, to the field for the Bills. And so they've originally got a safety kind of rolled up, corner safety, presumably on Flowers, and then the tight end in man. Read man with Justice Hill leading out into space. It's a great concept, but I think this is a Harbaugh play. And what I mean is it's an option concept, and we've got great numbers, in my opinion. Hill out in space to presumably go get the overhang defender, and then Andrews working down to get the front side inside linebacker who's got safety type size, but he's agile and quick. In this case, it's a give to Flowers, remember the first play, right, was the 1st and 10, the incompletion that I showed you, where Lamar's pressured and had to throw it away. This is the second play. It's a sweep to Flowers, creates a 3rd and 2. We have to settle for a field goal here. I am 95% sure that this is the type of play that Harbaugh calls, and I'm fine with it. It's been successful, but it came back to haunt us, I think, late in the 4th quarter, and I'll actually show you that play and break it down a little bit. Got to fast forward to here because, like I said, I had things in the wrong order. If you're a Bills fan and you're listening, first of all, like mentally tough team, staying in it, being able to come back and win, doesn't make mistakes, don't hurt themselves like obviously the Ravens do. I will give you a warning or a heads up. I expect to see more targets against Benford if the Bills play more man, because he's protected by scheme when they're playing so much zone. And he's a very good player, right? But he's beat by 3 different players last night, and one of which is Flowers. So this is later on. This is actually late 1st quarter. It's the Ravens' 2nd possession. They're down 7-3 at this point. Kind of a deeper over concept, if you will, by Flowers. Clean win. I mean, when you see the separation, like that's a huge amount of separation right here for Flowers against Benford. He just can't keep up. He's a great athlete. He's playing corner in the NFL. He's a starting corner, really highly rated. He's a good player, but doesn't have the athleticism to keep up with Flowers in this particular matchup, if you ask me. That's a huge win. That's a first-round knockout from a win standpoint in terms of a corner versus receiver matchup in man. Lamar slides around in the pocket a little bit, finds Flowers. I don't know about you as a Ravens fan. When I watched this play live, I was like, please tell me we're not going to let them off the hook again with another fumble near midfield like the playoff game, obviously, last year. Same play from the end zone angle, and the tight end 84, who I thought played quite well at times, is going to work his way across. Additional to that, Andrews is stepping to the safety to block him, perhaps Lamar and or the offensive line. Check to that because they saw the Bills walk up a couple of DBs in the box, but really it's just a +1. So, this is standard. This is typical. What I'm talking about is Benford having his hands on. I got no problem with that. Every DB, in the league and high-level college football is going to do that. There's a play, however, against Bateman where Benford is holding like 10, 12 yards downfield. Look at the way that Zay separates from him when he puts his left foot in the ground. Lamar has to step up a little bit, but there's some times where Lamar's drop is deep, and so these guys are kind of fighting to get upfield a little bit longer than they would normally have to do if a defensive end works his way to a topside rush, an outside rush, because Lamar's drops are often deep. I do wonder, speculate if you will, that that's been an adjustment by Monken and Lamar after the poor pass protection early in 2024. This throw, could clearly have hit Flowers a little bit more out in front, and if you ask me. This possession worked out in our favor, don't get me wrong, but in my opinion, this throw could have led Flowers in this direction more, possibly, again, related to the fact that Lamar kind of side-armed it a little bit. But in any case, the Ravens still end up taking a 10-7 lead early in the 2nd quarter. Flowers and Hopkins are lined up together here on the same side, the bottom side of our screen. This is 3rd quarter. This is our first possession of the 2nd half, in fact. It's a 3rd and 7, maybe officially a 3rd and 6. Bateman up at the top side, going to run a little bit of drag, and this is the one that Collinsworth talked about a lot on the broadcast. It really ends up clearing or opening up this space to the other side of the field. Almost acts like a climb concept. I'm talking about this route here by Flowers. Bills are blitzing the nickel DB, Taron Johnson, and then also the safety. Clearly, both of those guys are not supposed to blitz. One of them is. Which one, I'm not sure. And Collinsworth covered that, really well, in my opinion. Flowers is wide open running onto that space. Again, the corner to that side, Benford, has been occupied by Bateman on that little drag, shallow, whatever people want to call it. So because they're in a man relationship, it's 3rd down, and the Bills often play man on 3rd down. Benford has gone with Bateman, and that leaves things wide open. It's a clean pocket for Lamar, man. This is what you want. This is what you want for your star quarterback. This is what the Bills want. This is what they often got last night for Allen. Connection. Look at the separation. Is it a blown coverage? Yeah, sure. The safety's supposed to be involved, but let's be honest. Either of those DBs, Taron Johnson's the best cover guy they got. Either of those safeties, I should say, has to deal with Flowers all the way across the field. If Lamar gets time, that's what's going to happen, whether, it's a blown coverage or not. The Bills are, very fortunate that it didn't go for a touchdown. Couple of things to talk about here from a man perspective. Milano, eyes on the quarterback right now. Lewis, another safety, who's a good, tough player. And then Bernard, the inside linebacker, is lined up over top of Justice Hill. When I said in the previews last week that they're not a man team, this is what I mean. You end up with Rousseau, Lewis, and Milano all over here to occupy Hill and Andrews. They're not a team that majors in man. We let them off the hook once again, in my opinion. When Lamar has this kind of time, it's really over, in my opinion. This is what we want, and this is why so many people have complained about the lack of pass pro, about the offensive line coming into 2025, because we saw what happened in 2024. If there's nobody in the Ravens coaching staff who's willing to stand in a meeting room today and slam some shit on a desk and complain about the pass pro and how we have such a weapon, Lamar, and position players who are spectacular. How do we improve with the salary cap limitations we've got at this point? We really can't. I think Flowers, he's tearing them up, right? When they're outside their structure in man, we're going to take advantage. And the formula was there, right? Henry run a lot early and really force them to go into man, force them to dedicate more people to the box, if you will. And then we'll be able to take advantage. And that was all there. And I wonder, I'll talk about it at the end of the video, if this doesn't need to be more of an attacking team. And what I mean is late in games, instead of just trying to hold on to the ball and run clock, score mentality. Attack seems to be what Monken is really good at. Zay Flowers, if you ask me, is one of the key cogs there in that attack mode mindset. 2 plays later, this is after, I think, a run by Henry. I may have this, in fact, labeled wrong, being as I put it as a 1st and 10. This is incredible, exquisite design. It's a pony personnel grouping. So you've got Justice Hill and Henry on the field at the same time. We ran QB power read earlier, fast sweep. In this case, we're running it again, but the difference is now we're doing this with Justice Hill and leaving Flowers to the backside. Look at the identification that these guys have. I think that's Milano pointing something out about Flowers being backside. Milano's a super smart player. He's very experienced, been around a long time, and played at a really high level. Henry possibly leading for Justice Hill. Remember on the fast sweep earlier to Flowers, actually Justice Hill was leading out for him, just an indication of how versatile Hill is. This is not a read, though. This is a design screen to the backside. And Lamar, not really a mesh with Hill because he's just looking. Lamar's just looking, confirming, if you ask me, that the corner is not in a position to stop this screenplay. Even though Milano pointed at Justice Hill and or Flowers on the backside, he still went with the motion. He's still responsible for it. So beautiful setup, man. Stanley decleats the boundary side corner. I think it's Benford. Linderbaum works his way up to the safety, and that allows Flowers to cut off of the backside of Linderbaum. Collinsworth, to his credit, covered it very well. The 2 most athletic offensive linemen that the Ravens have are involved in that screen when they take a 27-13 lead. I think the attacking mindset is what the Ravens needed to be in order to win or finish out this game. It seems ridiculous to even talk about finishing a game like that, being as we blew another one, double-digit lead in the 4th quarter. So QB power read, right, has the motion man, in this case Hill, running behind the fullback or tailback, Justice Hill. Derrick Henry. Except we're not reading it, obviously, because we're blocking the defensive end, Bosa. Lamar has time, though, and I think that horizontal conflict is something we're going to have to get to a little bit more. You can see Stanley has decleated the boundary side corner. And then Linderbaum's block, just getting to 24, even though he doesn't hit a home run here, he barely hits a single, allows Flowers to cut off of it and then really waltz into the end zone, take a 27-13 lead. Things should have been well in hand at that point. Great use of personnel, man, on that play. It looks like QB power read with the fast sweep, but Flowers on the backside. He is totally dominating this secondary. Going to move to the 4th quarter, show you 2 plays here that are, clearly disappointing. We're up 40-25. Defense actually got a stop, and it's return motion. I kind of really like the design here. I talked about this in a video earlier today. So return motion by Flowers, and then he's going to bring this route underneath. It's a downfield screen, and the only guy who is getting out is Linderbaum. And I think Linderbaum is, I think he's responsible for the nickel. And so what I mean is I think he's responsible for the nickel DB Tayron Johnson. Watch Lamar. He's clapping for the ball to be snapped. Lamar is ready now. And we've got two blockers down here downfield because Lamar can, where we're getting rid of the ball, right? Linderbaum can get downfield because of the timing. The timing's just all messed up. Tyler Wallace is going to get Lewis, and then Hopkins is going to go get the safety. That's going to leave the boundary side corner, Benford, totally unblocked here. And this is the design of the play. Lamar's clapping because he knows the ball should be snapped by now. And that, of course, causes Flowers to move forward. And not only does it cause him to move forward, but it causes him, Flowers, to be a step behind. He should already be, going underneath of Linderbaum, if you ask me, such that Linderbaum can go get the nickel, and then the only guy unblocked by design is Benford. Wallace went to get the safety. Hopkins is going to go get the other safety. And then Benford's going to have to come downhill and make that tackle somewhere in this area here, perhaps a little bit further upfield than what I have drawn, but you get the idea. It's a designed downfield screen on a 3rd and 13 where Flowers can take it horizontally and use his speed. As it stands, he ends up taking it vertically, so I could absolutely be wrong with the design of it. The timing was off nonetheless, even if whether I'm correct or not in the way that I'm trying to analyze it for you guys, the timing was off, and that put us in a tougher situation to try to get it done. A penalty on Flowers would have negated it anyway. Of course, the very next snap, the play that follows, is Simpson diving on the punt inside the 5. It sucks to be able to have to criticize those guys for that are playing on punt team. The Bills got a touchdown, of course, to begin their comeback and eventually closed to 40-38. Last play that we'll talk about here is a 2nd and 9, and this one's very important. We're only up 40-38 at this point. The Bills have really closed things down. We're inside 2 minutes. And so we go with the fast sweep. And what do the Bills see? How do they identify it? It's unbalanced or tackle over. So the tight end on the backside is the left tackle. He's eligible, however. And the Bills are onto it. The Bills are communicating it. The inside linebacker, Milano, 42. 42 is not really saying anything. 8 isn't either, but Milano and 8 are definitely communicating because they recognize it's unbalanced. This is a little bit of a giveaway, if you ask me. They shifted completely over, and so we've got enough guys to block as long as Milano's not there. Kolar is designed to go get 8. Andrews supposed to pin down on 42. Andrews doesn't really give us much here, if you ask me. Justice Hill lead out in space for Flowers. I think we could do better here. And I speculate, I wonder if our limitations in pass pro is what's causing play calls like this to happen at a certain time. We've got guys here, and Justice Hill to lead for the corner. We just don't have anyone for Milano because they identified it. Why'd they identify it? We went unbalanced. Really a giveaway, if you ask me. Are we going to get 13 yards there? Well, we'll get one more first down, the game's over. But Milano's the unblocked guy who identified it or was part of identifying it. I would prefer if we throw the football there and hope that they're in man, get Flowers matched up on somebody that he can win. I think Flowers is going to win 90% of those matchups against the DBs they rolled out there with last night. 4-3 personnel. Because of what we've put on the field, we went 13 personnel. And so that's where I thought this was going to be a pass when I saw 13 personnel because they had the inside linebacker on the field, and that controls the matchups. But nonetheless, we didn't do that. We decided to run, what I think is a hardball play, and it's a great concept. I love this play. I just don't love it here. Look at how shifted over all 3 inside linebackers are. You probably got a little bit of a view of 42, but, they know the play. They know where it's going. I would prefer to see Lamar be given the option to drop back and throw the football, but we don't trust our offensive line. Would you? At this point in a high-leverage situation. So when I say that we need to attack, yeah, there's a drawback there, or there's a downfall potentially, and that we would have to rely on guys to pass pro who simply aren't good at it. At least they're not consistent from the standpoint that they can't do it 45 times a game. The Bills drop back to pass pro, to throw the football 46 times. Allen was sacked once. Our strategy was to contain him and not necessarily go for the sack most of the game. My point is, what if the Ravens had thrown 46 times? We're clearly losing, and it's going to be an absolute CF watching us pass pro that many times. I cannot prove it, but I wonder if the play calls there late were limited on the play call sheet for a number of reasons. Number one, I suspect that Harbaugh at times is interjecting and getting involved with the play. Happened to like look, QB power read off the fast sweep. That's in almost every playbook now. High school, college, NFL. Certain teams don't use it, right? If you have Jared Goff as your quarterback, you're not running QB power read with the fast sweep because he's no threat to keep it. But it's a baseline play, week one install for most of the teams that I know. So I don't have a problem with it being in the playbook. I just have a problem with it, the play call being there on 2nd and 9. I would prefer to see Lamar drop back, survey the field. If you give us Flowers versus Benford, thank you. Hopkins versus Strong, I like that too. You know, we're in 13 personnel, so neither Hopkins nor Bateman is on the field. My point is I would like to force someone to cover who, in my opinion, showed us over the course of the game that they're not able to do so. Poor play call, poor finish by the Ravens, obviously. But Flowers flashed in this game. We have to have better usage of him, in my opinion. 7 catches, 143 yards on only 8 targets, along with the 1 throwaway when Lamar was pressured. The 1 touchdown on a screen. I think Flowers is set up for a big year. I would love to see this Bills team again. Unfortunately, because we started 0-1 and they have a win over us, it's quite possible that if we do face them again already, it looks like that game would be in Buffalo in the playoffs. Appreciate you guys' time. Try to excuse the negativity if you can with some of the breakdown, but I feel like I have to try to reflect what actually occurred in reality. In my opinion, is that the offensive line right now, from a pass pro standpoint, isn't doing us any favors. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comment section, number 1. Number 2, if you think other Ravens fans would like to see some of the things that Flowers did well, as well as some of my critiques of the offensive line and the play calls in the 4th quarter, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.